Dave, can you tell me, what do people get wrong about their branding?
Most people think it's all about them. It's not. It's about your audience. So, for instance, I have a lot of people turn around and say, yeah, Dave, I'm writing a book. And I say, okay, what's your book about? It's all about me. Who cares if it's about you? Start with working out what the audience wants and write a book for what they need. Yeah. Otherwise you end up with a garage full of books that nobody's interested in. Mm-hmm. And when you have your signature message about what it is that you offer to the market, at some point you start off by knowing who your people are, what they want, and then just offer that with every communication. And if they like what it is you're offering, they'll work with you. Your brand is about what people say about you when you're not in the room. And that's where you start.
Welcome to Speak on Stage with Dave Crane, the podcast where we unpack the art and science of public speaking to help you command the stage with confidence and authority. I'm your host, Dave Crane, and as a seasoned speaker, coach, and entertainer, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals like you to unlock their true potential on stage all around the world. Each week we'll bring you candid conversations with industry experts, successful speakers, and thought leaders, delving into proven strategies, practical tips, and personal anecdotes to empower you to become a captivating communicator. So whether you're a seasoned pro looking to refine your skills, or a beginner taking your first steps onto the stage, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering the craft of public speaking. So grab your notepad, open your mind, and get ready to amplify your impact as we embark on this journey together. Welcome to Speak on Stage with Dave Crane. Together, let's jump and grow wings on the way down.
Born in the UK, moved to Dubai 30 years ago, participated and opened a massive amount of TV shows, been a DJ, learned how to be unstoppable, and now coaches executives and business founders how to be ones globally and here in Dubai. Meet Dave Crane, a coach, a great marketer of his own personal brand, and just a remarkable person who's the author of the book as well. Dave Crane, who I introduced at the beginning, and thank you very much for finding like a huge amount of your day to come over in person. So wow. I feel really honored. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be here, Larissa. I love what you do. I think you're fantastic at it. Your podcasts, your interviews are amazing. And I just wanted to be part of that. So for me, leaving the home and coming all the way to here and finding parking is worth it.
Very good. All right. So I'm absolutely sure we're going to have a very interesting conversation today. I've got a structure in mind, but feel free to sort of, feel absolutely flexible, give your personal examples, etc. So I just wanted us to start with something I was thinking about. So your core domain is actually to help people become unstoppable. How did you come to that?
Well, my real business is helping people to become industry icons, which is when we've got a world full of influencers and we've got politicians who are effectively influencers in the politics space, you realize that people aren't so old school about the establishment. They're more like what's got my attention. It's almost like social media, which is now taken over from email as the main reason for doing business, drives the way that people think about things. And so I think that the days of being a good-looking, look at my dinner, this is how I do my hair influencer have changed dramatically from before. The biggest numbers got everybody. I think that the real area for the sweet spot for people, and that's anybody, is to be an expert at what you do. You don't have to be super good looking or even good looking at all, but you have to be able to give value in what you do. And so I work with people because my background is spending many, many years in media, working for the BBC and running radio stations and all sorts. And so I help them with my savvy of having been in the industry to fast track their image, their brand, their positioning, create the media that they need. So even if they're not the best at what they do, but they're very good at it, I mean, supposing they're 70% as good as anybody else, that 70% plus amplification and plus saying it's me will make people turn around and say, oh yeah, I know that person. Because most people who are really at the top of their game spend their time at the top of the game. That's what they do for a living. But if you're very good at what you do and you amplify it and you use social media and you create a following and you do all the stuff that you should do towards being an influencer, but you don't rely on just the fact that, I'm good looking and look at the people I know and the clothes I wear and all this stuff, then you can have a really good position that when people ask you about what you do, because you do it for a living, but also you can't be knocked off the top slot very easily because you're not asking for a top slot. You're just amplifying your ability to be really good at what you do. So when people are looking for something and your name comes up, why not just go with you?
Absolutely. So you're talking about finding...
I keep knocking the mic. 2 seconds.
Yeah. You're basically talking about finding your niche, find your authenticity, find your superpower, use it to help people make business out of it. So that's basically how... to be unstoppable works, or am I right to think like that? Or what is being unstoppable?
Which is my latest book, my latest keynote, is about the ability to get the mindset right for this to happen. So the people that I predominantly work with are already successful business people. Doesn't mean that's the only people I work with, but they're the ones that are ready to be able to elevate themselves and say, here I am, this is what I do, and monetize it very well because they've run good businesses and they can pay for my services. But also, the unstoppable mindset is something that most people don't know. Most people have a job, even Dubai. Dubai is a place for the employees. You come to Dubai because you got a job lined up. Yeah. Now more people are starting up their own business, and the Dubai government realizes that, and they make it a lot easier for you to start your own business, which is fantastic as well. And that's happening across the globe. Fewer and fewer people are buying into the idea that you go to school, you get your qualifications, you go for your job, you get your job interview, you then have a family, 2.3 kids, car, holidays, and retire happily. That was a dream that was sold to us a long time ago. And I never got that dream, to be honest with you. When I was at school, I did okay at school. But when it went to getting job interviews, I was bouncing off the doors. And I'm sure that I'm not the only person. I just got so many times that didn't get the job that I wanted. Yeah. I went away, studied, worked for the BBC, got a freelance job for the BBC. Freelance as in, we'll keep telling you when you can keep coming in. Worked for them for about 3 years. Now that in any job should turn into, okay, let's give you a crack at working full time. No, it was constantly, we'll let you know. But what I watched was people who were coming in and bouncing over me to full-time jobs, who were less than me at what they did. I don't mean that to say, well, I know what... It's just you can tell.
I know what you mean.
When somebody's face fits.
Yeah.
And my face just never fitted for obvious reasons, which we don't need to go into in this part of today's conversation, but we probably will. And so I never bought into the British dream, the American dream, any of that dreams, but I did buy into the fact that if you play your game really well and you understand how good you are and you find what you do really well and focus on it and work really hard, you can make a living out of it. And I think that that's what most people are starting to realize now. And even the ones that are employed are turning around and saying, right, I want to have a life as well as this job. And if this isn't right for you, I'll just make a job doing what I do for you as a freelance, and I work for all these other people as well. It'll come in from bits and bobs. It'll make the same kind of wage up or down as you give me, but I'll be with my kids, I'll be in my house, and I can choose to do what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so my philosophy is really about designing your perfect life and creating the life that you really want to have. Whatever it is, there's enough for everybody, and there really is enough for everybody. There's enough money for everybody, there's enough jobs for everybody, there's enough love for everybody. The systems we have right now have been set up to make sure that there's scarcity, which makes you, take out credit cards and all the rest of it, because you're thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to have the same as them. What we've done with the pandemic is people are working from home in their jogging shorts. So why would you need to buy the latest Armani suit if you just never go out? Maybe the top half, maybe, but the rest of it. So it's been like a real change for, no disrespect to the fashion industry, but so much of that is like, we've got to churn out the latest. Yeah. People are going, you know what I have is okay. I want something else. I'd like to find happy, if that's okay. And so the book's really about finding your happy, but also imagine the School of Hard Knocks had a training manual. Yeah. That's unstoppable.
All right. Okay. No, I'm looking forward to the book to be published, because I think, we had a discovery call with you, and I know you've got a special background behind the book that made it very, very personal, at the same time very, very valuable. Maybe my question to you would be, you partially answered it already, but I like the conversation. So maybe, what is behind the story? What is the story behind, writing a book about unstoppable mindset? What pushed you to write this book? Okay. Was it a journey that you went through yourself? And you realized, for example, that this journey can help other people too?
Great question. Can I answer it in two ways?
Absolutely,
Let me refer back to the original question in a moment, but let me just talk about the book business model. The book business model is about creating a template that you have so people can see what it is that you're doing, who you are, and they can see you in their own time rather than you having to be there all the time for them. They get the book, they like it. After that, they end up wanting to have you to speak at their events, and also they're interested in your podcast, your TV shows, and it's basically a great way to start your empire going. That's why the book is so central to that. That's really important for right now, because right now there's podcasts and there's TV shows and stuff flying about. It's easy to get access to information, but if you've made it so it's a specific type of brand that really is built on what's in it for them, then you've got something that's very special and very different. So that's why the book came about. For the actual knowledge that goes into a book, it's basically about how to go from imposter syndrome to industry icon. And imposter syndrome is something that suddenly I didn't know what imposter syndrome was until about 2 years ago. And what happened was when George Floyd got murdered by the police, a lot came out about the black community, Black Lives Matters and all the stuff from that. And I've been in Dubai 30 years. And I was looking at it going, wow, that's a bit rough over there. And then I started looking at it and thinking, hold on, Dave, reverse engineer, why are you in Dubai? Because there's very little racism in Dubai at all. There's systematic things that go on, but if you're of any colour and you can do business with any colour and any nationality here, because it's all based on what can we do to help each other. And it's an amazing experiment that's working really well. And I looked at the bits and bobs that went into it, and I thought, well, how does that stuff that's happening in Europe and happening in America and all that stuff, how does that reflect on me? And I realized that I was actually carrying imposter syndrome, and I had done my entire life. Now, to explain imposter syndrome, it's that voice in your head that says you're not as good as everybody else. And so it doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to fail, you're always going to look stupid. Now, as a therapist and a hypnotherapist and life coach and business coach, I know that my entire life I've been saying no. But there's still a bit in it that makes it really hard for you to believe that you can be at the top levels. That little bit where you would want to contact, a Hollywood star and start a relationship conversation going, you wouldn't do it because they're going to tell me no. Well, how do you know that? You don't know that. They might be really bored, especially now, because they've been through 2 years of no work. So it's a great time to do it. And I realized after the challenge of being a speaker, because I was an international speaker, hosting big events and training people all around the world, to zero. Nice income to zero, with a family and dogs and house and rent and cars and stuff to look after in Dubai. And so I had to reinvent. And part of that whole thing is looking at who I am, what I do, and how do I move forward. So part of the imposter syndrome challenge is working out if you're stuck in a situation where you've got to step up to the next level, what's holding you back? And I thought, actually, imposter syndrome. That is a major challenge for me. I can live with everything, I can deal with everything, but there's a part of me that I kind of hid from me, and I realized that bit is stopping me from stepping up to where I need to be for the outside world, for the world we're in now, where it really is get back into doing stuff. One of the things about imposter syndrome, something about the business world as well, is if you're in any other work apart from, say, maybe entertainment, events, they got hit probably worse than anybody. Everyone's jobs have carried on. Everyone's work's carried on, working from home maybe, all the rest of it. If you've been in entertainment, which is one of the glam jobs or events, it went to zero. So it's really hard to explain to people outside what events people have gone through in a particular industry.
So, and absolutely. So people and the event hosts definitely had to pivot. And I think the fact that we're all having an opportunity now to do the virtual stuff, and we just changed the face-to-face bit of the events into an exciting show digitally. And that's a journey that we're still going through, in my opinion. And it's going to become more and more. But I agree with you. So you faced the moment where it's actually your keynote capability, and that is one of your domains as well, to give great keynotes, have become probably less in demand in a face-to-face event. But I think it's still in demand from the point of view of, if you go to a virtual event, etc. But in terms of the keynotes, for example, I wanted to talk about it later on a little bit, but since we raised this in connection with the imposter syndrome. So what were the steps that you've taken, and how are they reflected in the book probably? How did you overcome the situation where you had to pivot, where you had to overcome your imposter syndrome, as you mentioned. So I've got a very, very interesting quote from Meryl Streep, who said, imposter syndrome is like, you think, why would they want to see me in another movie? I don't know how to act anyway. And that's Meryl Streep, right? So everybody's going through that.
Well, Meryl Streep,
what are your secrets? What are the steps that you take?
Actors have it worse than most, because the fact is you have to act as somebody else, and you've got to have incredible vulnerability as you do that anyway, which makes a massive challenge. So there are steps that I came to realize to get over imposter syndrome, and it's been a really fascinating journey to experience it. And one of the ways I'll explain about it, apart from just being able to map out your life and being able to step it out so you know exactly what you're doing as you're doing it, and you reduce the risk and you use it as business models. So for instance, let's take the idea that people, have you ever seen The Secret or read The Secret, all about the idea of law of attraction, all that other stuff, and you got vision boards, all that stuff. Fascinating, really good. But what works better than vision boards, what works better than writing down your goals, which is very effective, is working out business models and reverse engineering how you get there. Mm-hmm. Because then you've got a system to follow, not just going, hopefully the wind's blowing this way, I might get to be famous or rich or whatever it is that you're after. And so with the system that I put together for it, and it may already exist in the system, but I've not come across it, I believe that you've got 3 stages to your life. First one is you're born with your birth certificate name. So in my case, it's David Maxwell Crane, little baby David Maxwell Crane, born years ago, 50 plus years ago. And so you create David Maxwell Crane, or your birth certificate name, the person that you are today. Everybody goes through that. So the person that you are today, so that's your stage 1 is birth certificate name. Then you've got your social media name, which is stage 2. So my stage name, my social media name is Dave Crane. That's who I've created out of David Maxwell Crane. And that's the person that everybody knows. And that's the person that I will do stuff on stage. And I've got a family, and I've got good bits and bad bits. The fully rounded person. The challenge is that that's not optimized. It's really hard to be that all the time. It's really hard to be the best version of that all the time, because you're a real person. And so you're better than the birth certificate, because I can't even say it, birth certificate version of you, but you are still a construct of the good, the bad, and the ugly of how many years it's taken to get there. But then there's a third stage. And the third stage is what makes it so fascinating. If you look at your history and you look at the time that you get into the zone and you look at the times that you optimize yourself and be really good at what you do. So for instance, if you're a lawyer, you might be okay at doing the law bit, but you get me in front of a jury and I'm going to make sure it's brilliant. That's a brilliant version of you. Mm-hmm. If you're a sports person like a Ronaldo's a great all-round footballer, but what he does better than anybody is work out how the ball gets in the back of the net, and he gets to that space and knocks it in past everybody, even though the whole team is trying to knock him off the ball. We all have a zone that we do really well, where it's creative writing, and so you find yourself at 5 o'clock in the morning and you go, I've finished. What's 5 o'clock? Oh my goodness. But that's brilliant. That's perfect. Sending it off. That zone version of us, I gave it the name of, imagine what your nickname was at school. That person of you when you step up, and it only steps up when you need it to, but most of the time you might even not know it exists. I called mine Max. My particular one is when I've got a microphone, I'm in front of people like a live audience, I can make every decision I need to make. I'm really good at what I do. I don't take no for an answer. I will go past any challenges to get the end result, which is that everybody walks away saying, what a great event. So after 2 years of on and off work and chasing stuff all around the world, I was left in a situation where I realized, like many other people, that the second pandemic is not the disease. It's actually the depression, the anxiety, the challenges, the feeling that the world's not the same as it's going to be. You lose family, friends, all sorts during that. I lost my dad about 3 months ago, so I know exactly what the whole process is. And I just thought, I'm not strong enough as Dave Crane to be able to step up and do this. Mm-hmm. But Max is. Mm-hmm. So what I did to test it was I thought, right, okay, if this is a theory that's going to work, I'm going to start asking Max questions. When I've got a difficult situation, like how do I deal with that client? How do I deal with this? I know if I had a microphone and I was on the spot, I'd come up to the right decision. So why don't I just ask Max what he should do? So I'd ask myself, it sounds bonkers, but I asked myself, what should he do in that situation? And my subconscious mind said to me, do this. And the deal was, I didn't want to crush it down and ignore it. I wanted to do exactly what it said and see if it worked. So then I started doing what Max said. I started doing these things. And then I thought, you know what? It's really comfortable at doing this. Why don't I just be Max? So to the outside world, I'm still Dave Crane, which I am. But the inside mechanism is Max. So I drive everything like that. And what I found was that optimized version of me beats imposter syndrome because I don't put up with any rubbish. I make very smart, good decisions about stuff. I put stuff into perspective in a split second, and I'm completely happy in my own skin.
No, yeah, it's from the point of view of developing the right mechanism to fight the imposter syndrome. I think that's an absolutely great way to sort of get to move forward, to take another action, because that's what the unstoppable mindset, I understand, is. So take another action and then another action, and then you kind of you keep on building things. So that's great. That's great. I mean, as I said, I'm looking forward for the book to come out because I think, for the record, there will be a lot of personal examples from Dave's life, which we were not talking today, but I mean, he's got a pretty remarkable life.
I can give you an example. I realized that when I reverse engineered everything that I've done, imposter syndrome was at the heart of it, but there's certain life decisions I made all the way through that got me the results that I wanted. So now I embrace them. So for instance, probably the most famous person I've ever worked with was James Brown. I hosted his event in Dubai. At the time of him coming to Dubai, he was the biggest star we've ever had. And I got to interview him. So if I look at my life back to the birth certificate me and all the experiences I had working up towards the actual interview with James Brown and going on stage with him, you can actually work out when the elements were being put in place that meant that when I needed to shine, I could do it. Okay. And I could look at it and say, that's it. So for instance, we had a situation recently where I hosted the World Cup cricket. Mm-hmm. T20 World Cup cricket, one of the biggest events of the year, apart from the Olympics, which is a bit. So I did the World Cup cricket. I don't know anything about cricket. I do now, but I didn't at the time. But I do know how to work an audience. I do know how to learn how to work a new sport. I do know how to get all the elements and do them live in front of an audience without blinking and making it work. So I had a really strong learning curve to be able to be as good as I am at hosting live cricket to the world. At the same time, my dad passed in the middle of me doing these sessions. I did my first session and it was challenging really hard, lost my dad, and then I had another session lined up in 2 days. So what do? Do you just cancel? Well, no. After 2 years of no work, of no live gigs, you want to make your stand and say, here I am, I'm working, I'm great, I'm doing it. So you find a way of working at it. I handed over to Max. Max did the gigs. I was able to do the daytime, looking after my mom, doing all the paperwork, chasing people, telling people, let them know, all the rest. Didn't have time to grieve, but Max took care of all those. So everything from the opening of Planet Hollywood to I hosted the Dubai Rugby Sevens for 20 years. Going out in front of 45,000 people for 3 days every year with a microphone, doing games, singing, everything for 20 years. To do it that long, if you reverse engineer it to the beginning of who you are, again, there's a certain package, a certain part of you that you put together that tells you you can do this. And I remember the very first time I took over running the event. And I was in my Jeep. I had a red Jeep at the time. I was single. Hey, I can't remember those days. But I was driving in my Jeep and I was thinking, you can't do this. You can't do this gig. Because I was brought in by a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, who then they fell out with and they said, right, we're going to get rid of him. We've had an argument. We want you to run the event, Dave. And I said, well, that's not fair because he brought me in. And they said, well, it's dead simple. You have to do it, so we get somebody else in. And I thought, well, if I take it, then all the people who are in our group still have a job. So that's why I'm going to take it. But I'm driving a car thinking, what am I going to do? And I took a step back and I thought, hold on. You're a life coach, ask yourself a life coachy question, ask better questions. I thought, okay, if you are the organizer and you are running this event and you're the founder and you're the sponsor and everything, you've got to hire somebody to do that job. Why would you hire somebody? So, right, they've got to know the event, they've got to be great with audiences, they've got to be great to think on the spur of the moment, they know all the different elements that go into making Rugby Sevens happen, they've got a team that trusts them, and they're very good at entertainment. Who would you choose? I'd choose Dave Crane. Oh, they have? They've chosen Dave. That's it. That means that if I'm doing that job, because they saw the same thing that I've just seen now, so if I get it wrong or get it right, I'm the best person to get it wrong or right. So with that, I threw myself into it. I trusted myself. Some things we did brilliantly, some things we did better the year after, but we never dropped the ball, and it lasted for 20 years. And during those 20 years, I had most of the same team with me all the way through. And I don't think anybody's got an experience like that. For 20 years in Dubai, in the events industry, doing an event that was the biggest flagship. I didn't realize it, but 18 years on the trot, we won the best event of the region, best sporting event of the region. I had so many certificates, I threw them in a bin. I didn't even think about it. Every year I get a certificate, like, yeah, whatever. But it's only later on you go, oh, I should put that on my LinkedIn. And so examples like that, of which there are many, and they're all in the book, I reverse engineer the mindset of everything I've gone through so people can do that for themselves. They can look at the challenges that they've got, the things they've got to go through.
Yeah.
And everyone's got real challenges, and say, right, what would Dave say? Or in their case, what would their nickname version of them say? And then they can make themselves step up to a much higher level and get much better success and become unstoppable.
Amazing. So how does it feel? Let's say, so you've been doing a lot of face-to-face gigs, like huge gigs. So how does it feel to sort of get into a digital space now with the same probably sort of gigs? How does it feel for you? Was it easy to convert, let's say, to pivot into that direction?
I was doing this 15, 20 years ago. I created it, just as social media started, I created a show called Turbocharge Your Brand TV. And I interviewed Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield, all the big stars that came to Dubai. I interviewed them. And nobody else did. So I bring my camcorder on a tripod, and nobody had phones at those times with cameras on. So I got the lion's share of all the interviews. And so I got used to doing this, but I was too far ahead of the game. There was no real there was no podcast world.
Yeah.
There's no little TV show. So I did it. I put it on Facebook, and it was great. But I ran to 2 seasons. I got it sponsored heavily, but I got bored. I mean, if you're running on your own, then what's the point in doing it after you've done it 2 seasons? You go, right, I'm done, thanks, cheers. And so getting back into it was relatively easy. What happened was within the first 2 or 3 days of the lockdown, myself and my dear friend Ernesto Verdugo, who's based in Texas, in Houston, Texas, we've run a lot of events for speakers, speaker training, speaker tours, all the rest of it. We said, right, what are we going to do? Because we're scared, the world is scared. And we'd never faced anything like this. So we said, why don't we do a show? He got some software that allowed me and him to go live across the world from our laptops. So we said, let's do a show. And we came up with the name, The Toilet Paper Diaries, because at the time, people were fighting over toilet paper. Don't know why, but we called it Toilet Paper Diaries. And so we went live every single day for an hour for 50 days on the trot. Every day. And we evolved from, let's just say, how are you, to actually producing what speakers should be doing and the best way to drive sales online and interviewing people and all sorts. We had guests on the show, and we became really well known in the speaker industry just for doing that show. And we ran, for 2 years I've been doing shows all the way through. I only stopped when my dad passed. And I will be starting them up again because I couldn't really find the enthusiasm for doing it, but I'm back again. And so the idea of going virtual really fascinated me because I really believe that every single person and every single organization should treat themselves like a broadcasting house. It should be media. We shouldn't just be doing social media. We should be media. So if you start off by doing a TV show, you take the audio, you turn it into a podcast. You take the podcast and a video, you chop it up into little clips you can use on social media. You can get a transcript that becomes your blog post.
Yeah.
And then you can drive your following. And if you do the stuff on a certain subject, that can become an online course. So the whole thing is an ecosystem built into it when it's done properly. And that's why I share with all my clients who are doing the Industry Icon program with me, that your expertise is bankable. Now, the big change is people don't want to buy a course that's videos. They just don't. What they want to have is they want to have it done with them or for them. Because courses are everywhere. Information's easy. You can go on YouTube. Everyone's courses on there. And so there's a slight change in the wind with that. But still, it's a brilliant business model. And your clients now, because the world is flat, effectively, could be anywhere in the world. And I love that. I think it's fascinating.
Amazing. So let's just, I wanted to ask you about, so I know you're absolutely a great storyteller, and we probably have witnessed it now too. So can storytelling help a brand, let's say, because we want to be valuable for the brands as well, and how can a personal storytelling be integrated into, let's say, a brand message? Just to talk a little bit more about marketing and corporate marketing, etc. So I know you're working with executives. I know you've been coaching executives to do great keynote speeches. How can a personal brand of a leader help to strengthen a brand message? So any ideas, any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. The bottom line on why storytelling is so effective is that facts and figures are dull, and you can lie and make them up, and they don't tick boxes in your heart that makes you go, oh, I want to work with you because you're super successful and you managed to get a huge turnover last year. Just, okay, I can work in it like that, but not fascinating. But what happens is if you look at a brain scan, a CAT scan of what goes on in the brain and the bits that light up, if you're telling somebody facts and figures in a meeting and why people should work with you, then about 2 areas will light up. You tell people a story and about 7 different areas light up. Because when we were kids, we were taught fairy stories, of fairy tales and bedtime stories. And what we do is they get you to really, I mean, even now you remember them because of the fact that it woke up different parts of you. You got emotionally involved. You learned life lessons all the way through. And so you can even quote the stuff that you heard as a kid. So we have storytelling built into us as a very receptive way of learning about stuff. So therefore, when you do your business as a story, then you can really get the same impact on people. So if you're talking about, last year we had a return on investment of 50%. We made more money, 50% more money than last year, so you should be working with us. Okay, fine, whatever. I mean, that's 50%, it's pretty impressive, but if it's like 7%, whatever. But if you say, let me tell you about the lady that came to work with us last year. She was a lady who just started her own business during the pandemic. She was making sandwiches, and she'd always loved to do it because she came from Czechoslovakia. So she came to Dubai, and it was her dream to be able to make sandwiches in Media City for people. So she'd set it up, and it was really challenging and really difficult because she just couldn't reach people working from home. So she came to us, and our agency was able to turn around and say, right, here's what we've got to do. We're going to make sure that you've got a delivery system. We're going to put you on some of the Deliveroo and Talabat. You can make your stuff from home, but it's an option for people to buy it because then we can tell your story. So we did some videos. We set up a TV show for her, and she was able to then show people how she cooked these sandwiches and do the food of the day. And people would love it and would order that meal of the day. And she was able to look after her kids. She's able to grow her business. She's got fans all over the world. And now she's got this whole brand, Mrs. Miggins Sandwiches, and people love it. Mm-hmm. So her business went from something that was dead in the water to something that's become a family brand. She's teaching kids now that the schools are open how to make sandwiches for their lunch, healthy sandwiches and other foods as well. And Mrs. Miggins is brilliant. I mean, she'll do a testimonial for us at any time.
You can definitely feel more attached to
Mrs. Miggins, you want to Google it, even though just made it up in front of you.
You actually want to eat a sandwich.
You want a sandwich, you love the backstory. Would you prefer to just go to a supermarket and buy a sandwich, or are you going to look for Mrs. Miggins, even if it's more expensive?
Yeah.
You know the heart, you know the story, you know she's got kids, you know that what she's been through. That's somebody you want to do business with. That's somebody you want to gravitate towards. And even if you don't, that story tells you, I can be okay. If she can do it, I can do it. Yeah. And so stories should be based around your signature theme. And most people don't know the signature theme. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they've done. They just see their social media version of themselves. But when you reverse engineer it right back to the beginning, you find that you've been doing the same thing all the way through your life as your go-to philosophy. Mm-hmm. And that's what your signature message should be about. Yeah. Like for me, mine's jump and grow wings on the way down. I've done that my entire life. I've made calculated risks, I've gone through it, and almost every single time I've managed to reach the other side and gone back and gone, wow. So in the early days, I was with everybody else. Now, there's hardly anybody who does what I do at the level that I do, because when I jumped, they refused to jump, or they thought, I'm in a comfort zone, I'm fine, I'll stay here. So for me, I can talk about that as my elevator pitch for 10 seconds, that's 3 seconds, jump and grow wings on the way down. When I add to it, I'm an international keynote speaker who creates international keynote speakers, and I teach them how to jump and grow wings on the way down. I can talk about that for 10 seconds, 30 seconds. I can talk about it for 3 hours. I can make an online course on it. I can also do a 3-day retreat of training that everybody will find success, whether it's called Unstoppable or Industry Icon. That philosophy works all the way through. And it's also easy to then share that with other people. What's Dave? Who's Dave? For instance, if we take something like Les Brown, very famous speaker, you got to be hungry. He talks about all the time, a catchphrase, you got to be hungry. And he talks about it like that. When you find what's your signature theme and you delve in it and wear it, everybody loves it and they gravitate towards you in a very short amount of time. That's how the storytelling works. Not all the, I went to Harvard and I graduated. Who cares? Start off with saying, what's in it for me, as in them.
Is this the biggest mistakes that leaders and brands do about the storytelling? What do they not get right about the storytelling in your experience?
Right.
You've just mentioned they've started. They're talking about probably not the same, not a boring stuff or something that relates to them only. So yeah, just to direct it a little bit.
Unless you are a celebrity, nobody cares what you did. You just don't care. Even, I mean, if you're Justin Bieber getting interviewed, what kind of M&Ms do you like? Or I like blue. Oh, great. I like blue M&Ms, just write that. That's what people do with influencers. That's what people do with superstars. Your average person, nobody cares. Get over yourself. What's in it for them? Work out from your story what is in it for other people. Get rid of all the other stuff and just keep that thread. That thread should also have how you got there, what your offer is to the world, and why that passion that you had should be infectious enough for people to want to do business with you and talk about you and trust you. Trust is the bottom line. If they don't trust you, they won't work with you. So for instance, most people think it's about like, trust, no, like, and trust. That's what everyone says in sales. It's not. I like a lot of people, but I wouldn't trust them to go shopping. And if you don't get people to trust and buy from you, you haven't got a client. So right now, the business model is give stuff away for free, give it for free. Yeah, people will have your free, but will they then pay for that? Probably not. First of all, they've had it for free, but they're not a client or a customer until they buy. So there's two things. Liking is on a sliding scale.
Yeah.
So I can like somebody a little bit, or like somebody a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I trust any of them, because that's not what's being asked. It's about whether you like their company. But trusting is a yes or no. So, for instance, the guy who's the watchman for my place, he comes in and he fixes everything, and he's grumpy and he's always in a bad mood. I don't like him, but I trust him because he fixes stuff. Could I recommend him to somebody else? Yeah, I'd happily recommend him to somebody else, but he's a grumpy guy. Whereas I can get somebody who's really nice but never gets it done. Whenever I send them to the shops, can you get me something? Yeah, no problem. Or a really good friend, you give him $1,000. Can you look after that? I'd have to go away, come back, and there's $700 left. What happened? Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'll pay you back. I just had to do something. So like and trust are very different.
Yeah.
It's about the ability to get trust as soon as you can with that relationship. And that comes from creating incredible value with people. Your story is part of that. Because do you know what you actually sell to people? What do you sell to people? I think we've had this conversation before. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to anyway. What do you sell?
We're selling the great media products to people. I think the conversations and the marketing services, definitely.
That's a feature. I want benefits. What do people get? Why do people buy that? What does it give them?
It gives them the exposure. It gives them the ability to express themselves, to sell themselves. So podcast, for example, this is the conversation that allows people to put themselves into a spotlight as well, to sort of get the best versions of themselves.
It's still a feature. What's the benefit? What do they get from this? I'm getting me a hard
business,
time.
Yeah, a
Thank
business.
You. Right. You get business on the back of working with us. The features of whether it's a studio and you've got great guys looking after you and the beautiful mics that's a feature. But the benefit is you work with us and we will make sure you get more business. And you're selling the certainty that don't worry about how to do it. You don't need to check our mics. You don't need to check our cameras. We do that. You just need to pay us. Pay us and we will make sure your business rocks. Now, somebody comes along and gets that from you and we say, well, what about this? Don't worry, I'll take care of it. They go, okay, take my money, done. So your job is to make sure that you create that certainty, you create that benefit, and it's so obvious and out there, and stories are great. This is a story. When you share this with people, you're going to say, right, Dave Crane works with us, and you can show the pictures and video, whatever it is, and people are going to go, oh, a bit more trust in you, a bit more trust, a bit more certainty that you can do that for me and my brand as well. And that's why you do it. So it's all part of that marketing to grow your relationship with people so they end up becoming your customers. And they won't become your customers and they won't spend anything until they trust that you will deliver. And that's what all the marketing comes into. And storytelling is part of that marketing process.
I like it. I like the way you explained it, because I think it's less of a theory, more of a journey that you yourself went through. And I can feel it from the energy that you're delivering, from how you're talking about that, because trust is something that is difficult to gain, and that's a lot of efforts. And you have to use all the tools that you have personally as a business, right, to bring your customer to yourself, right? So, and building that trust. And yeah, thanks for sharing that one. Storytelling is definitely one of the tools that helps, but it's also personal branding, which you're working on.
Which is my particular area of expertise, about becoming a celebrity in your niche. But there's another thing I was going to say, that when you're a celebrity or you're an influencer or you get great results or you've got great followers, that means nothing. You can get vanity metrics on social media. Many of my clients have got millions or hundreds of thousands of followers on their social media, but they don't make $1 out of their social media. They do a daytime job that people don't know about. The key to it is how many people are following you who are spending money with you. And are you asking for that? Are you asking for the deal? I did a post the other day on LinkedIn. That post, which was a picture and a short description, turned into 6 appointments. One post.
Amazing.
And those will turn into clients.
Yeah.
So it's not done from a vanity point of view. It's not the me. It's what do they want? Who are they? What are their needs from life? Can I supply that? Can I focus on them? And so it's easy to get bums on seats and get eyeballs on your stuff. That's why people go to YouTube, take a cat being rescued from a tree by a fireman who looks really hunky and chunky, and they put it there and everyone goes, that's really nice. And then they get like millions of views for something that everybody else has used. That's easy. But does that grow a relationship with your customer? No, it doesn't.
I think we're talking about 2 different business models here, because the business model you're talking about is literally using content for driving your sales and bringing you new clients. But we also have another business model when people create a really great show, as we started to chat at the beginning, and then they grow their audience, and then they find a sponsorship, etc. But they are actually doing things that might not be directly related to the business. So, like my 7-year-old son likes to watch a YouTube channel where people are just making fun of everyday situation, and they've got a massive brand amongst the teenagers, amongst kids. They've got a lot of merch, that they sell. They've got another shop. That's another business model. That's how it works. I mean, it depends, I think, on a niche. It depends on the audience you're selling to. But
one's easy to do, one's not. Honestly, that model of throw it out there and hopefully enough people come along, there's a handful of people that really make money out of that. Most people are just knocking on doors trying to get it. My daughter's got 5,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Lovely.
She can get a video that is watched by 100,000 people. I can't do that. I'm not that good. She can do anything and it happens. Doesn't monetize it. She's 11. Right. But that's one business model. The most successful YouTuber who makes more money than anybody else is Ryan. Ryan is...
the real estate guy?
No. He's an 8-year-old kid who opens toys and plays with them. But he made $30 million last year from these videos and sponsorship and all the stuff that goes with it. That's a rarity. I mean, YouTube has a relationship with people that can really grow your channel and so on. And there's a lot of value in YouTube. But for instance, a very dear friend of mine who's an author, has written lots of books, very successful book guy. He did a video, put it onto YouTube. The video followed it got watched by about 40, 50 people. And he made £100,000 out of it, because the video said, this is what I do, this is what I'm offering, if you're interested, contact me. He already had a nice following of audience who are all in the industry. They watched it, they said, yeah, can I have some? They booked him. He's coming to Dubai in 2 weeks' time. He's going to different Saudi and some other places to train teams in the industry he's in, and they will pay him £100,000 easily. So those videos have to be specific to a specific audience. Or you can do that thing which you're talking about, which is grow this huge monster, but there's so much competition in it. And it's so hard. And you work on it all the time. Be an expert in what you do and share that expertise of what you can do for people. Now, it's an age thing as well, because if you're a kid, fine. But the age I'm at, I don't have time to put stuff out there and see people like it and not like it. That's one of the reasons I walked away from radio, because I was just thinking, why am I putting stuff out there all the time? Why do I want to talk about a shopping centre or a supermarket sale like it matters to me? It doesn't. I don't care. Why am I talking about it? Because you're getting paid to. In that case, I don't want to do it anymore. And I walked away from radio with immediate effect after being in it for 20 years because I just had enough of that. So I think it's down to whatever you want to do. YouTube is like planting videos in your back garden that will grow and one day flourish and give you something back. Or you can say, I'm never going to have a massive YouTube channel. I'm never going to make any money from YouTube sponsorship, but I'm really good at what I do. This video is strategic, and this is what I teach my industry icon clients. Let's do a video that sells your business, and that business will give you $100,000 to $1 million worth of business, because that video, somebody who's targeted will go, yeah, let's get these guys.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. There's no doubt on different, ways digital and content can work nowadays, and it depends. That's all we're talking about B2B. That's all we're talking on LinkedIn. we're definitely using YouTube for uploading content there, but our audience basically is on LinkedIn. That's what we're here. So I want you to answer one question to me. So what should our both audiences watching this,
both audiences, like two people, or you talking about the two audiences that we talked about?
The two audiences that who go. I mean, it's always when you have when you have a guest. So you've got his audience.
Did you just
as well.
call me a hoe?
A host.
Okay.
I'll have to cut out this.
Leave that in. That's not going anywhere. She called me a hoe. Just keep it in the video. There we go.
A host. I meant a host, and I meant a guest. When you get a guest, so your audience is cross. But anyway, we'll cut that out.
We won't cut it out. That's staying in. See, boss says it's staying in. Wonderful. Anyway, carry on.
That's a backstage. So I wanted to tell you. So what are our audiences? What 1-2 steps they should take after watching this episode towards the unstoppable mindset?
Right. Okay. Well, the easiest thing that I would say to everybody if they want to know more is get onto my social. Connect with me, because all the time, every day I'm posting. So you'll get little clues. You'll work out from what I'm doing, what you can do. You don't have to become my client. I want you just to be better at your life. And I prefer not to have millions of inquiries, because I'm very selective about who I work with, but that doesn't mean I can't give you value from what I'm doing. I've got TV shows, episodes, podcasts, everything people can get access to. The book will be brilliant, and that you need to get access to when it comes out as well. But I would suggest that what you do is just ask yourself better questions. That's the first thing to do. Don't buy into anything that anybody says, because what everybody says is right for them. It doesn't mean it's right for you. Work out what you need to get from life. And that is the heart of it. I can help. Contact me, set up a meeting if you need to, if you think that what I'm talking about is directly good for you. If not, follow my social, and you'll get enough clues all the time about motivation, inspiration, and who you need to be. And I think the first thing is to believe that you can be anything you want to be. And that sounds like a really fairy, life coachy thing. Right now, the one type of person the world needs more of is life coaches. There's a lot of damaged people out there, especially men, who have been holding the whole fort together, and they weren't allowed from their upbringing to turn around and be vulnerable. And they don't know how to deal with this new world that we're in. But there's a lot of people who've been through it, they've lost people, and it's really challenging. The one answer to it, life coaches. But what's the big problem? Life coaches are rubbish at business. There's more unemployed life coaches than almost anything else out there. So life coaches need to be able to get the right way to do it. Now, the right way to do this, to make the world a better place, make people happier, is life coaches have to go to doctors and say, right, can you recommend me to people who come to you? Because the doctor business model is you come in and within 2 minutes they sell you a drug. That's how it works. Forget all the rest of it. That's what it is. You come in, yeah, what's wrong with you? Okay, scribble. Take these, and guaranteed, even if I don't know what you had, you'll be okay in a little while anyway, because I don't really know what it was. So even though we're doing what they're doing a lot of the time. But there is a huge amount of people who don't want to have just a 2-minute prescription. They need to spend quality time with somebody who's going to be there for their mental, emotional, and well-being health, and their financial health as well. That's what life coaches are brilliant at doing. So they should be there and available for everybody. And life coaches, get over yourself. Go and talk to doctors, go and talk to hospitals, go and talk to nurses. If somebody's lost somebody, you are perfect for helping them get over it. But it's just got to marry together. So there's a lot of flux in the world of things that are flying about all over the place. In a perfect world, they come together better. But we are moving in that direction. At least I hope we are moving in that direction. And as best as I can, I'm going to do what I can to make it better.
Amazing. And that was Dave Crane. So we're releasing our episode very, very soon. Stay tuned.
Thank you for tuning into another insightful episode of Speak on Stage with Dave Crane. We hope you found today's conversation inspiring and packed with valuable insights to help you to amplify your presence on stage too. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more aspiring speakers just like yourself. Remember, the stage is your platform to shine, and with the right tools and mindset, you can captivate any audience anywhere. So keep honing your craft. refining your message, and never shy away from the spotlight. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of public speaking and performance. Until then, keep speaking, keep shining, and keep making an impact.
I have been participating in Dave Crane's Industry Icon program.
Dave Crane is one of the best coaches in the industry.
One of the most knowledgeable speakers I know.
I was so impressed.
He shared the stage with celebrities, athletes, politicians, and royalty.
You've been an inspiration to me since the first time I saw you on LinkedIn, man.
New prospects should know that you are a world-class broadcaster.
He's a true professional. He operates from his heart, and he always speaks his truth.
Where do I begin?
I looked around the room, and all I could see was eyes on you, ears on you. You could have heard a pencil drop.
Dave is someone who is a limitless thinker with a big heart.
And his Industry Icon program helps coach great leaders into becoming great speakers.
It's helped me improve my image online. Everyone I know that's worked with you says the same thing. It's helped me improve my presentation and speaking abilities.
Clarity, clarity, and clarity.
But more importantly, it's helped me to have a crystal clear message in what benefit I can add to my audience.
You know, I'm in TV, and so people assume that, you know, speaking in front of crowds is easy. But I'm on a set, and it's very different to go from a closed set to speaking to a live audience.
Now, because of Dave, I totally get it. I totally get why it's important, and I totally get that I can do it too.